This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
Valvoline and Advanced Auto Parts have teamed up this summer to make sure that you're getting the ultimate protection. How? Valvoline full synthetic motor oils are specially engineered to provide 24 times stronger protection against engine-killing contaminants than the leading full synthetic. If you want to maximize the life of your engine, trust the ultimate protection. Trust Valvoline. Get 5 quarts of Valvoline full synthetic motor oil for only $32.99 at your local Advanced Auto Parts store today.
I'm Sandra, and I'm just the professional your small business was looking for. But you didn't hire me because you didn't use LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn has professionals you can't find anywhere else, including those who aren't actively looking for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role, like me.
In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you'll miss out on great candidates like Sandra. Start hiring professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/qualify today.
It's been 7 long months since we saw the Kansas City Chiefs take down the San Francisco 49ers in overtime and go back-to-back in the Super Bowl, lifting aloft the Vince Lombardi Trophy at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Since then, we've seen the England football team make it to the European Championship final. We've seen Paris take centre stage in the world as it hosted the Olympic Games. But this Thursday night, football is back, and so too is the Graves on Gridiron podcast for Season 3. Hello everybody, welcome along to the show. I am your host, Richard Graves, so strap yourselves in and get ready, because here we go.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Well, welcome along to the show. Welcome along to a new season. Graves on Gridiron is back. And if you are watching us on YouTube, Richard Graves TV, you will see a familiar face on your screen. It is, of course, cricket broadcasting legend and lifelong suffering. Can you call you suffering now? You've won a Super Bowl in the last 5 years. It is Charles Dagnall. Daggers, great to have you with us.
Oh, Richard, thank you for inviting me. I loved it. I loved the opportunities that I had to come on with the podcast last year. And it's this moment, isn't it? It's the anticipation. We wait so long, 8 months, and we go through free agency and we go through the draft and we go through mini camps and then training camps in the preseason. But it all boils down to this week, doesn't it? And I think you'll be the same as me, won't you? Just fit to burst for the season.
It's a long off season, 7 months without any competitive National Football League action. Although, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I think we both know someone who might be, you've probably needed the best part of those 7 months to get off that crushing defeat at AT&T Stadium in the wildcard round of the playoffs to the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love et al.
You're still hurting. You can still see it, and you're still hurting. I mean, the other thing is that you have invited me on in the first week before the season, knowing full well that my Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually got further than your Dallas Cowboys as we got to the divisional rounds last year, which I think is brave.
Well, I'd say this: I'm a big believer that if you don't have a record above 500, you shouldn't be allowed in the playoffs. Now, unfortunately, I'm not the commissioner of the NFL, and I do not make the rules.
hey, I cannot help it. But there is. I mean, all of the stories, and this is what I love about the NFL, as I'm sure you do as well, is that for things like the football, the soccer season or whatever, there seems to be very little let up and no anticipation. Like when the Premier League started this year, or my team Burnley in the Championship, there was sort of like, oh, we've just finished. And they're starting again now, and there's this no anticipation. What I love is the off-season storylines, the building up, the excitement about new players and young players joining your team. And then it also leads into this. And there is a genuine sort of little trough in the midsummer kind of thing, even though I'm busy with cricket, as are you. And then And then the cricket season starting to come towards an end, which always means to me it's the start of the NFL season, and the transition is a very, very, very pleasant one.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty of the NFL as well, Daggers, is that they just give you enough to keep you interested. We'll have a sprinkling of free agency a month and a half after the season's finished. Then we'll have the draft at the end of April, beginning of May. We'll give you 2 months off, but then we'll bring you back for training camp. And it's just enough to simmer along the surface. I should add as well, before we get people writing in and complaining that I don't know my facts, I am acutely aware that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not finish last regular season with a losing record. But quite frankly, it was the only sort of defense I had. And I'll point out, Daggers, that when you were last on the show, they did have a losing record at that point, and you frankly have given up on Baker Mayfield and your team. It was me backing the Buccaneers, giving them life.
Yeah, do you know what? I feel suitably, humble pie, I'm not sure if it's the right word or not. We spoke about the signing of Baker Mayfield, and you are right. You said this is a good thing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and backing him to find a home, etc., etc. And I was a bit, well, I don't know. We've just had Tom Brady, and to try and fill those shoes. And
well, you weren't, I don't know. You said he was not for you.
He wasn't for me. All right, thank you for reiterating to the exact word what I said to make me feel even worse. But I am happy to stand corrected. I just thought he was this sort of relative stopgap, even though we had an improved time of it. After going from Carolina to Los Angeles, he actually looked a better quarterback in Los Angeles, and then Tampa Bay picking him up. But I thought, we need a franchise guy, especially given the quarterbacks that were in the NFL draft coming out in this recent cycle. Given that there were, 5 or 6, I think, taken in the top 13 picks this year. And so I thought, I fancy one of those. One of those will do for me. And Baker Mayfield will be good enough to get us to 7 or 8 wins, maybe. And that is not a top 15 pick. And that was my concern with Baker Mayfield. I think he would be good enough to win us enough games to not get a top pick. I was happy to be on the Kyle Trask juggernaut to see Tampa Bay through last year to a top 5 pick. But as it turned out, I'm quite happy to stand here in my wrongness and say how wrong I got it, and actually how good he's been, and how... we'll talk about Tampa Bay, I'm sure, in a minute, but I'm in a weird position with Tampa Bay, and I'll tell you why in a moment.
Well, the good news for you, Daggers, is we are not here to apportion blame. So we are here to start afresh and look ahead to it.
Yes, you are. Season. Yes, you're happy. You're more than happy to make me eat my own words. This is the build-up to the season, and you're already throwing it back in my face. Be that as it may, I'm happy to hold my hands up and say, yeah, got it wrong. Got it wrong.
Now, we acknowledge that some people will probably be downloading this podcast, listening to it, viewing this interview after the season opener has got underway and been put to bed. But we will look at that anyway for those that are joining us ahead of Thursday night's game. It is, of course, the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Baltimore Ravens in a repeat of the AFC Championship game from last season. Of course, that game took place in Baltimore, and Patrick Mahomes and co took care of business there. They're on for a three-peat. We've never seen a team win 3 Super Bowls back to back to back. The question I've got for you, Dag, is are the Chiefs actually better this season than they were last season?
It's a great question. And I think Patrick Mahomes said it. They were very limited in the pass game last year. And of course, Andy Reid will come up with numerous different ways of using the players that he has at his disposal. Travis Kelce came up big, especially in the second half of the season, Isaiah Pacheco. But apart from the sort of emergence of Rashee Rice, who still isn't at the elite level yet, he's only coming into his second year, there wasn't a great deal going, but somehow, thanks to a great defense as well, Steve Spagnuolo's defense was really good for the Kansas City Chiefs last year. They managed to make it work, and I agree with you. I think they are better. Xavier Worthy, who they've drafted, what was he, the quickest 40-yard dash time in draft history or combined?
Yeah, the wide receiver out of Texas.
So you add him to the mix, add a second-year Rashee Rice, and Travis Kelce, who I don't think, and I'd be interested to know what you think, will he produce the same kind of numbers that he has in the past? I'm not sure, but if you still get 50, 60 catches out of him, he's had a pretty good year and helped the offense. But I think they are a just as good a unit, if not better, just with the addition of Xavier Worthy. A downfield threat gives Patrick Mahomes a lot of options underneath and in the middle of the park.
Yeah, and he's got good hands as well. The one criticism labelled at the Chiefs last year was the amount of times their receivers dropped balls in big situations. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. I'm with you. I think that Andy Reid has made this team better, certainly in terms of the roster he's got at his disposal. Hollywood Brown was an acquisition. He won't be suiting up for the kickoff game on Thursday night, but he isn't too far away. Flip it on the other side of the coin. The Baltimore Ravens, it was their year last year. Home field advantage through the playoffs. They had the Chiefs coming to their house. Lamar Jackson couldn't get it done. Again, now, and we will talk about the Cowboys later, but you know the hoopla that goes around Dak Prescott, 12-win seasons, can't win the playoff game. Lamar Jackson beat the Houston Texans to supposedly get the monkey off his back in the postseason last year, but it's all right being the NFL's regular season MVP. You're paid to win championships. Where are we with Lamar Jackson? He's still relatively young, of course.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually going to turn this around to you. Where would you see, how long, and your experience within the NFL and knowing and seeing what you have seen, how long does that sit? You know, it's almost like the golfer who has like Colin Montgomery, who wins a host of European Tour titles and millions, but never win the big one. They never win the major. And it's that sort of accusation that's sort of thrown at them to sort of say they've got all the tools, they've got all the attributes, they've got a great supporting cast, which he does now. And I think with Derrick Henry added to the mix as well, I would actually leave Derrick Henry in the garage until around about November. But what do you think? How is there a sort of time limit that you think Ravens fans are sort of, is he on the clock a little bit here, Lamar Jackson, do you think?
Well, he's in the middle of this contract extension he signed a couple of seasons ago, isn't he? So he's not going anywhere anytime soon. However, what I will say, and this is from speaking to colleagues and associates that see a lot more of the Ravens than I do, up close and personal, what happened last year, the stars don't align much better for you than that. Home field advantage through the playoffs. Joe Burrow out injured and not in charge of the Bengals, of course, in the second half of last season. The Bills knocked out of the postseason by the Kansas City Chiefs, and you have the Chiefs coming to your own patch, and you don't get it done. Nah. That's a pill and a half to swallow, is that? So the question now is, does Derrick Henry provide the safety blanket, if you like, to give the Ravens that 1-2 punch to be able to make the most of the attributes that Lamar Jackson brings to the team? Look, they are going to be a postseason football team again this year. I have no doubts about that. But again, it is about winning titles and championships. And that's how you're judged. And it's how history judges players in the NFL. And until Lamar Jackson proves himself capable of doing that, this is always going to be the knock on him.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that especially in this game, there are a certain couple of factors that obviously every team wants to get off to a fast start. Of course they do. But the season opener at Arrowhead, I mean, that is not easy, especially when I think Baltimore have got 3 new starters on their offensive line. And that, again, will take a bit of bedding in. We know that actually very few of these starters will play a great deal of preseason time. So therefore, it might take 2 or 3 weeks for things to gel, to that understand.
Well, Bill Belichick always said that the first month of the season was basically his preseason, didn't it?
And it takes that time. I think for offensive lines, out of all of the, I was going to say skill positions, and it is to a degree, but out of all of the aspects of the season, I think it's a lot easier to get into the season if you're a receiver or a running back or a quarterback, weirdly. it's an offensive line and that unit gelling and the understanding between each other can take a little bit of time. And if you've got 3 new starters, I think that is something of a little bit of a concern for the Baltimore Ravens. I wonder about Derrick Henry. If we're going to get the Derrick Henry, and even he wasn't quite himself last year and he still racked up 1,100 yards, are we getting a Derrick Henry that is the wrong side of 30? Has he still got that burst and that power that we know he possesses? Because I think he is going to come into his own when the weather turns, when it gets a lot colder up in Baltimore and the surrounding areas within that division. And I wouldn't necessarily need to ask too much of him in this early part of the season. He is going to, and maybe that is why the acquisition was made, to actually come January time, come playoff time, he's the guy that wears down tired defenses and season-hardened defenses, if you like, and could be a game changer. The other thing is, start of the season last year, Detroit went into Kansas City and the opening game of the season and overturned them. And I think that's another thing for the Kansas City Chiefs, is that they've got the season opener yet again. They're at home again. I think they will be determined to celebrate hard with the fans and not have a recurrence of what occurred last year, because even though it was a great game, I loved that game when Jared Goff and Detroit went into Kansas City. I think there is I think they will be very, very keen to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've got to crack on because we've got a number of games to get through in this season opening preview show.
But we've got so much to say. We've got so much to say.
You've got to pick your best bits, Daggers. It's all about bring your A game when you're on here. Right, here we go. Chiefs, 3-point favourites at home to the Ravens. Remember, they've got a new defensive coordinator, Zach Orr, in Baltimore after Mike McDonald went to be head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Where's your money?
It's with a home win. And I think it'll be a decent game. I think it will be a tight game. But I've got the Kansas City Chiefs winning by at least a field goal.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs as well to cover there. I'm with you on this, Daggers. Of course, there's a big night for the NFL as well. On Friday night, we do have bonus football because it's a first ever regular season game in Brazil. The Eagles and the Packers are going to fight it out down there. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think I'm right in saying the Eagles might go into it as 2.5-point favourites, but we'll check on that. But yeah, unquestionably for the league as a whole, big night, taking the game to pastures new.
And how well and successfully they have done it, wherever they may have been, whether it's going to London as they have done for 2 decades, or whether it's going to Germany, whether it's going to Mexico, it seems to matters not. There's a big thirst for it. They can't send every game to every single country, but there's a huge thirst down in Brazil. They will pull out. And again, you have covered every single international series they've been. When they go to a new place and a new destination, they want to take a really good foothold there and pull out all the bells and whistles, don't they?
Yeah, they absolutely do. And make no mistake as well, for as well organised as the teams and the National Football League it's a learning experience when you go to a new destination for the first time. And so going to South America, just getting to grips with the way logistically things are done in Brazil will be a new experience as well. And the first thing the NFL will want to know from both teams when they come back is, what were your experiences, good and bad? And perhaps the bad is more important so that the league can iron it out, because make no mistake, this won't be a one-off in Brazil. They will return there. The Eagles are 2.5-point favourites going into this game. We all know how fast the Packers finished last season. Jordan Love playing lights out and came within an ace of beating the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round of the playoffs in San Francisco. The Eagles, of course, quite the contrary. Fell off a cliff second half of last season. Both the offensive and defensive coordinators were let go. Big year for Nick Sirianni, I would suggest.
Yeah, absolutely. This game is my Jim Capaldi, the Jim Capaldi game. Love hurts, and that's for someone who people
singing.
who know their 70s music. I again, the Eagles they went 10. I think they were 10-1 last year. And they were like a really poor 10-1 as well. There was no real flow to their offense.
Went 1-5 down the stretch of the regular season, and then I can't quite remember who they lost to in the postseason. Can you refresh our memories?
Do you know what? I can't think.
Somebody in Florida, maybe.
Who could it be?
Quarterback that wasn't good enough. The Buccaneers, the pirate team. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, we just have a thing about beating Philadelphia ever since the Rondé Barber interception at the link again with Donovan McNabb. We've just had a little hex, I think, over the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, there's lots of factors at play. That talismanic center in Jason Kelsey. When you lose someone massive like that, the heart of your offensive line and the character is, and actually a staple part of the tush push, which is hugely productive play. No one has managed to stop it yet. I agree with you. The Nick Sirianni thing. I think he may be a little warm on that seat because they have drafted well. They have got a seriously good roster. Yeah. So, they've got lots of weapons offensively, and the biggest area of need was cornerback. They went and fixed that in the first 2 rounds of the draft. It will be an intriguing game, especially down in Brazil. Just one thing on the Packers, and I don't know about you, and that's why I was going to ask you about it. I think I quite like Matt LaFleur as a coach. I think the addition of Jacobs in the running back position is a really interesting one. Getting rid of Aaron Jones and Dillon and all that, and then you've got this single back who has been so prevalent for the Raiders for such a long period of time. I just want that dynamic. Are they going to be a proper run first team? Do you think? Are they going to play into that sort of traditionally? That's what LaFleur's offenses have been. He likes to be run first and take the pressure off the quarterback. So with everybody being fit, yes, without a doubt. I think the Josh Jacobs signing was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. You allow Aaron Jones to go to a division rival. But then you bring in a veteran who was banged up for a lot of last season. Time will tell whether it's the right move or not, no doubt. So, yes, this is the second bonus pick we're going to give you if you're listening to the show ahead of the season kickoff. Eagles-Packers. Eagles 2.5-point favourites in Brazil. Where's your money?
I'm going with the Green Bay Packers on this. I think that Jordan Love, the way he finished off last season, a huge boost to them. I'm going the Packers by a touchdown.
Yeah, I like the Packers as well. I think it'll be a closer game than that, but 2.5-point underdogs on a neutral venue. And of course, Jordan Love's got his big money deal now as well. I like the Packers. So those are the opening 2 games, Thursday night and Friday night football. In a moment, we will take a look and detail at the 3 games selected for week 1 of the Graves on Gridiron podcast in the new NFL season after a few short messages. Don't go away.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Okay, welcome back to Graves on Gridiron, the season preview show. We've already looked ahead to the Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champion, kicking off Thursday night. Then Friday night, the NFL is in Brazil for the first time with the Packers and Eagles. Then we go on to the main selection Sunday. And we're going to start, Charles Dagnall, with a team that you absolutely love, if not walked away from at times on a certain podcast last season. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers made it to the divisional round of the playoffs last year. They take on the Washington Commanders. Obviously, Dan Quinn, the new head coach in charge of the Commanders. In the draft, the Bucs acquired a tackle, Graham Barton, to strengthen that offensive line in the first round. Second round, they went pass rush with Chris Braswell out of Alabama. And then they looked to shore up the secondary with Tyke Smith out of Georgia in the third round. Aligned with that, Jordan Whitehead returns from a 2-year sabbatical with the New York Jets. There's also Antoine Winfield with a new 4-year deal. Mike Evans has been signed up. And the man you now adore, Daggers, Baker Mayfield, 3 years, $115 million. He was behind only Dak Prescott in terms of 28 TDs, 10 interceptions thrown last year. How are you feeling about your Bucs?
Let's bake, baby. Let's bake. No, this is, and I'm going to try and keep this short because I want to give you a potted history of what it's like to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Back in 2001, when they had that incredible defense with Brooks and with Sapp and with Barber and all of these players around that. And they were ready to win then. It had been built up by Tony Dungy, and there was a huge amount of positivity, and then John Gruden comes in. They win the Super Bowl. When Tom Brady came in, he had the supporting cast. It just needed him to fix everything. They go and win the Super Bowl. My 38 other years supporting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are generally filled with pessimism, negativity. I feel like this is going to be the end of the world. And I'm just sort of having to, I feel, even though they might do well, I always feel at the start of the season like, oh God, well, we're going to get battered by these and we're going to get battered by it. Now, I am in new territory here, Richard. I am feeling calmly and cautiously optimistic. I don't think we're going to win the Super Bowl, no. But actually, I think we're going to be competitive. I think we've got a very good roster. I think 4/5 of the players on the 53-man squad are, or over 4/5 of the players are players that we have drafted. So Jason Light has done a superb job through the draft. He's done brilliantly restructuring contracts to keep players. And I think a fan base can get behind that. I'm a Burnley fan. Right? And every single season for the last 3 years, we've got rid of a load of players and we've brought a load of new players in. And we've done it every single year. This year, I've got to learn the name of loads and loads of players. And it's like, oh my God, I've got to do it again. Tampa Bay have now, with Baker Mayfield, and he's really got himself involved within that team, who've got a spine of a team in Vita Vea and Levante David's still there. And Antoine Winfield has become a huge leader in that locker room. Tristan Wirfs, Baker on the outside, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. These are names that are just rolling off now, and they've been there a long time. And I think a fan base and a locker room can actually really rally behind that solidity behind a franchise, which happens rarely. So, no, I don't think we're going to win the Super Bowl. I think we'll be competitive. I would hope at worst it would be a wild card spot. I still think we can win the division. But as a season...
Hang on, that was a question I was going to ask you, because I've got to tell you that if you're asking me to pick a dark horse this season, I really like the Atlanta Falcons. New head coach, obviously, but you look at what they've done defensively, trading for Matthew Judon. They've strengthened in the secondary as well. Justin Simmons, free agent veteran safety out of formerly of the Denver Broncos, has come in. And the talent they have in the skill positions offensively is without question. So is this NFC South going to be competitive for the right reasons this season? Because let's be honest, it was competitive for all the wrong ones last year.
Well, yeah, I still think it has its limitations. I think it'll take Dave Canales, who went from being our offensive coordinator to the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. I hope he does really well, and I hope we actually get to see a bit better of a version of Bryce Young in that division. I think the Saints will be the Saints, and they again will be competitive. I think they are solid teams in that division without really going to the elite level. And I'm with you to a degree with Atlanta. Is that you've got to basically ask, Kyle Pitts, and I forgot the names escaped me for the receiver that they picked.
Drake London's
Drake London,
standout star wide receiver.
Drake London, and then Bijan Robinson as well. Now you've got to ask Kyle Pitts if he remembers how to catch a ball, because not many of them came his way in the previous Arthur Smith regime. So, of course, they have got the pieces there. Kirk Cousins, of course, they have got a hugely qualified veteran. I didn't quite understand the Michael Penix pick. Others sort of say it's a great pick, to choose your future now. But after signing a quarterback on the money that he's on in Kirk Cousins, I didn't get
guaranteed $100 million.
Yeah. I thought there was areas that needed strengthening a lot more for the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's going to be between those two. But I still can see, I don't know whether it'll take another year for Atlanta. I don't know. I think I think the Bucs are in place now.
Let's talk about this game the Bucs have got against the Commanders then, because it comes as no surprise. They're at home. They're 3.5-point favorites to start the game. You're going up against a new head coach, Dan Quinn, formerly head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, of course, but we all know what he's done in the intervening 3 years with that Dallas Cowboys defense. He's got a rookie quarterback, a quarterback that I've seen many tipping to end up being the offensive rookie of the year ahead of Caleb Williams. Jaden Daniels seems to be your archetypal NFL quarterback. He's got a live arm as well. This is a mouth-watering prospect for the neutral. Is it a game the Buccaneers should win? Is it a game they will win?
I think it's a game they should win. I think it's a game they will win. But I am excited, like everybody is, to see the new fresh blood coming into the NFL. And I can't wait to see what Jaden Daniels has done. We saw what CJ Stroud did last year. I can't wait to watch the Houston Texans this year. I think they're going to be fabulous, especially with the pieces that they've got coming back as well. But I think Jaden Daniels, I'm with you. I think he can be a real difference maker. That team needed a refresh. And I think that I don't think Dan Quinn is with personality like a Dan Campbell at Detroit, but I think he can have that kind of energizing effect. He's had success at Atlanta. He did have success at Atlanta. And I don't know about you. I don't think all the pieces are there for Washington on the offensive side of the ball. I think they'll be solid defensively, but this is a team that could show a great deal of progress. Are you in alignment with that?
Yeah, no, I do agree with you on that front. I think they'll lean heavily on Brian Robinson, the second-year running back. They were a competitive team that couldn't get out of their own way in many games last season. I think that'll be the same problem they've got for a lot of this season with the growing pains that go with a rookie quarterback as well. I think the Bucs win this game. Yeah. I'll go first on this. I'm going to take the Bucs to cover the 3.5 points. But remember last season, the job description for Baker Mayfield was you don't need to win us this game, just don't lose it. Don't throw picks, because whatever you think of the Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn will have that secondary ready to ball hawk. As long as Baker can look after the ball, the Buccaneers win and cover the spread for me.
I don't think it's this. I think the interest in the game is actually, let's take a look at Jaden Daniels. Genuinely, I think that's what the interest is. I think the Buccaneers win it something like a 24-14 type of game. I don't think it'll be thrilling. One person I do want to mention quickly though is Graham Barton, the center. I think the Bucs want to run the ball better. Rashad White's a good runner of the ball. He wants to explode, and I think Barton in the center of that line, he's a bit of a monster by all accounts, and I think he'll be a big difference maker in that offensive line. So yeah, Bucs to win it, but lots of intrigue surrounding the Commanders.
Are they covering the spread?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think they are.
Fantastic. Okay, we have already been talking for half an hour on this season opener preview show, Daggers. We've still got 2 games to get through. The Cowboys at Browns, Jets at 49ers. Don't go away. We'll be back after a few short messages.
Graves on Gridiron.
Welcome back to part 3 of the NFL season opening preview show on Graves on Gridiron. We've already looked ahead to Thursday night football, Friday night football, and in the first game we're picked for real, if you like. Both myself and Charles Dagnall are taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to cover the spread at 3.5 points and beat the Washington Commanders. Now, let's talk America's team, Daggers. Don't laugh so heartily, please.
It's not that.
Hurts.
It's not that, because we've spoken for about half an hour or something like that, and all of this, honestly, I can see it in your face as all of it has been building up to speaking about the Dallas Cowboys. So onward, please.
Well, it's like a help session, I feel, for me, this. There's a lot to get out of it. It's 7.5 months for the Cowboys nation since they were humiliated at AT&T Stadium by the Packers. 7.5 months since owner, general manager Jerry Jones turned around and said, I am all in next season. And so free agency goes by with almost out of whisper. Eric Kendricks comes in to follow Mike Zimmer as new defensive coordinator. The draft comes and we don't address the running back position. Instead, you bring in Ezekiel Elliott. And then it's all right because you're just creating cap space so you can re-sign Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb and your quarterback, face the franchise, Dak Prescott. Well, as we sit here recording this on Monday night of opening week, Dak Prescott is going into the final season without a new deal. Micah Parsons, he's had his 5th-year option picked up, but as yet there's no new deal going forward agreed for him, albeit he's got 2 years on his rookie contract left. Finally, last week, CeeDee Lamb gets his 4-year, $136 million deal. Jerry Jones has tried to redefine the all-in phrase. What does all-in mean for you, Daggers?
All-in means the exact opposite of what Jerry Jones thinks it means. I think he's actually sort of, I think he's folded this off-season because I don't see a side that I'm trying to be nice, right? Zeke Elliott is the number one running back on your depth chart. Now, yes, they've just signed Dalvin Cook.
He is.
I like Rico Dowdle. I think he's a useful weapon, and I think he is actually the pick of the running backs for me because you don't know what you're going to get from Dalvin Cook. A couple of years back, he was elite, but Zeke was running backwards. Granted, on a poor Patriots team, but I don't think he is the addition that will churn out the kind of mileage to give you the threat that CeeDee Lamb possesses. Now, if I'm any defense, and I think CD is absolutely worth his contract. You look at the elite players, and of course Justin Jefferson at the top, and you look at I know Jamar Chase is still waiting on a contract, but all of those, Brandon Ayuk's just signed a massive contract, and CD Lamb is right up there. In fact, one below Justin Jefferson, and he's worth his money. He is absolutely, 130 odd catches last year,
and the rest,
almost 17, and 1,700 yards. He is absolutely elite. So you double him, and then who you throw into?
And that's what
Brandon
happened
Cooks,
in the wild card round. The Green Bay Packers doubled CD Lamb, and Dallas seems to run out of ideas pretty quickly.
And that would be my worry if I'm you. Are you worried on the offensive side of the ball?
No, I'm not, because it's one thing to say you're going to double CD Lamb. It's another thing to be able to pull it off week in, week out. And make no mistake, the Packers weren't the only team to give double coverage over to CD Lamb last season, and still he put up video game type of numbers. I am worried about the message it sends to the entire organization if you don't sign your franchise quarterback to a new deal. I am worried about what it says that your entire coaching staff enters this season without a new deal in place. They're all out of contracts once it's done. And I am worried what that means for somebody like Micah Parsons then, because what message is that telling you? You know, you might still have 2 years left to run on your rookie deal, but how keen are you going to be to sign a new one? Remember, he's always tied his flag to Dan Quinn. Loves Dan Quinn. Well, Dan Quinn's not there anymore. He's gone to Washington. So these are all issues that aren't really being talked about openly, but you better be aware that they're not that far from the surface. And if results don't go the Cowboys' way in the first half of the season, you better believe all of this is going to come up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of this is going to come up, even if they go 12-4 again and don't have a very, very deep run into the playoffs. And I think Mike McCarthy will be fired off. Even it's all very well having the winning seasons, but it's actually having that element of, are we a Super Bowl team? And I don't think they are a Super Bowl team. I don't think they've got the caliber on the offensive side of the ball. And another thing is, Micah Parsons, I would say, is in the Aaron Donald type of elite player, game-wrecking player. He is a game wrecker at any point in the time in that league. And I would want his name on a contract, a long-term deal, before you're going into this season, to know that he's going to be at the Dallas Cowboys. So I agree. I find the off-season activity really, really strange. And I worry in their season opener against the Browns. I do. I think, you're going to struggle to run the ball potentially, and where the ball's going when it does come out. And I think Brandon Cooks was questionable this week going on the injury list. I'm not quite sure.
It remains to be seen what his final designation is, but I would be surprised if he isn't good to go on Sunday.
Me too.
Let's just talk quickly about those Cleveland Browns, because you talk about contract situations. There's only one franchise in NFL history that's given a quarterback a $250 million fully guaranteed quarterback, and that was the Browns to Deshaun Watson. Well, I think I'm right in saying he only started 6 games before his season was ended with a shoulder injury last year. How big a year is it for him?
I think it's a massive year for him and the Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski won the Coach of the Year award, I think, didn't he? And you can understand why. With the record that the Cleveland Browns ended up with, and they used 5 quarterbacks. And I think it was evident to me with the way that Joe Flacco actually ran that offense last year. Again, they have pieces in place. I look at their offensive weapons. Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy's coming from Denver. Now, is he the same Jerry Jeudy? Well, if he can be, he's going to be a huge threat. Elijah Moore, David Njoku. These are 4 pretty steady.
It's a potent offense.
Oh, it really is. Jerome Ford, I thought, came in and did really well for Nick Chubb, who won't be back at the second half of the season. But if you've got a fresh Nick Chubb coming in week 7 or week 8, there's another threat that you've. So everything stems, I believe, on the play of Deshaun Watson. If you're going to get the Deshaun Watson of last year, then you're going to struggle, and the Cleveland need to find an answer, and quick. But I think hence why they brought in Jameis Winston as well. And there's already a clamour, weirdly, and the season hasn't started. And I know all about Jameis Winston, let me tell you.
Gotta love famous Jameis.
Yeah, but I think defensively they are an elite unit. So I think this is a tough start for the Cowboys going in to Cleveland with that defense. And do you think, are we going to see the Cleveland Deshaun Watson, or are we going to see the Houston Deshaun Watson? Has enough time passed now? Has all of that, the off-field stuff with him tempered a little bit, and we might see the quarterback that he used to be?
Well, I thought we might see the quarterback he used to be last season, but let's talk fairly frankly about this. There's only one game when I saw Deshaun Watson put this team on his back and will them to victory, and that was the game that ultimately ended his season against the Ravens last year. Now, if that Deshaun Watson turns up, watch out, because they're sneaky Super Bowl contenders. If he doesn't, then again, watch out, because they might just be also rounds in what is a hugely competitive division and conference in the AFC. I'm really looking forward to seeing the contest between Myles Garrett, the all-star pass rusher, against the new rookie left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, Tyler Guyton, who by all accounts in preseason training camp going up against Micah Parsons has been sensational. Whatever you might label the Cowboys, you do have to say in the last decade, they've been really good at drafting offensive linemen. That's going to be a classic battle. I think at home, you've got to fancy that the Cleveland Browns, they're 2.5-point favorites. Do they cover it though?
I think they do. I think they cover that. Not by much, but I think they cover it. I find it really difficult to think that the Cowboys can go into that stadium. First game of the season, the fans are all absolutely, it's chaos. It's absolutely manic, especially in that blue-collar town in Cleveland. They know the potential of this team, and that they are, as you say, Super Bowl contenders. So I think it's a tough ask for the Cowboys on the road. I think they cover the spread, but just. You?
Here's the thing. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns to win the game. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys to cover the spread. Mike Zimmer knows how to play defense. He's strengthened the linebacker position. The secondary is as strong as ever, even without Deron Bland starting the season. And he's also brought in two big veterans to shore up that run defense in the defensive line. Jordan Phillips, Linval Joseph. I don't expect this to be a high-scoring game. I think a field goal probably decides it. And for that reason and that reason alone, although I am leaning towards Cleveland, I'm going to take the Cowboys to cover at plus 2.5. So we have a divergence of opinion.
Well, finally we got one. Oh, but this is good. This is good. This is what this is good. Here. Disagreement.
Well, we need that because I hate to hark back to your last appearance on the show. I did come out on top because I did back Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers when my learned friend.
Look, I swear, if this is going to come up every time I'm on, that's me done. That's me done.
Well, you're only as good as your last game, Dag.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, thank you. I tell you what, you will be sending me texts, mate. If the Browns win and the Cowboys cover the spread, I'm never going to hear the end of this. I can honestly believe it. I'm going to block you.
I'm not that kind of guy.
Yes, you are. You're completely that kind of guy, and I'm going to block your number.
Well, that's nice, isn't it? Week one of the season, you're blocked. Right, let's wrap it up then. Our final game is Monday Night Football. Jets at 49ers. No surprise that the Niners start this game at home field, 3.5-point favourites. But it's the return of Aaron Rodgers. And can San Francisco bounce back from what was a heartbreaking Super Bowl defeat? Remember, back in Super Bowl 58, they held a 10-point lead over the Chiefs going into the third quarter. They had a drive to potentially win it in regulation, couldn't get the job done. They had the ball first and had to settle for a field goal in overtime. And then Mahomes, well, the rest is history. So do they bounce back? And how does Aaron Rodgers come back, obviously having lasted all of 3 snaps last
I think I love that this is Monday night. I love that it's Aaron Rodgers again on Monday night. Remember when he ran out with that American flag and then 4 plays later he's done. Interestingly, I think a little addendum to this story is that Leonard Floyd, who caused that sack and caused that Achilles, he signed for the 49ers. It's Monday night. He's going up against Leonard Floyd again. I'm sneaky confident for the Jets for the season. I think in the division that they're in, the Buffalo Bills, are they going through a bit of transition with getting a lot of their players have departed. Josh Allen still is an elite quarterback. Miami Dolphins, you never know quite what you're going to. You expect them to be competitive though, with that high-powered offense. The New England Patriots could be anything, really, could be genuinely anything. And I'm expecting them to be poor. So I still think the New York Jets are a playoff team, and I think. When you look back at last season, had they had any half-decent quarterback play and managed to rest that defense, which I think is stacked. I think that defense is stacked. You look at Sauce Gardner, Michael Carter, DJ Reed in your corners positions, the linebackers in Quincy Williams and CJ Mosley, and then you've got a brilliantly rotating front four who – I think are as good as anything in and around the league, or at least in the top 5. So if you can spell that defense, then I think you're going to have a different New York Jets team. And they had to try and get their offense out of so many jams last year. So I quite like them for a playoff berth. I might even quite like them for a division championship. And that is if we get Aaron Rodgers, who claims he's better than he's been for a while, even though he's not played a competitive game in 20 months. He knows how to sell it, does Aaron Rodgers, but we know actually what kind of quarterback this guy is. He's one of the best of all time. So what say you about the Jets and the playoff chances?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you've said about the New York Jets, and I like them as well this year, because it's a big year for Robert Saleh, the head coach in his 4th year now in charge of the New York Jets, of course, former defensive coordinator at the San Francisco 49ers. And also, I look on the other side of the field. this hasn't been spoken about, but I think it's a huge loss for the 49ers. Dre Greenlaw, remember that freak injury he got just from trying to run onto the field in the Super Bowl? Well, that was an Achilles tendon tear, which he had surgery on. He might appear at the back end of the season. He's certainly not taking any part in the first half of this season. And we've heard George Kittle, their tight end, before say that Greenlaw and Fred Warner are the heartbeat of this defense for the San Francisco 49ers. So how do you cover that hole? Brandon Ayuk's just signed a new 4-year, $126 million deal, the wide receiver for the 49ers, but he didn't turn out. He was openly talking to other teams about getting a trade. That was a lot of disconnects going on. He might have the new deal. It remains to be seen how easily you paper over the cracks that appeared there. And then you've got their star left tackle, Trent Williams, who's currently holding out for a new deal. If he is not there to protect the blind side for Brock Purdy on Monday night, watch out. It could be, open season on Brock Purdy. And what we did see last season was when Brock Purdy was forced to extend plays and make decisions on the hoof, and we saw it in the playoffs, against both the Packers and the Detroit Lions. There were times there Brock Purdy looks decidedly normal, I will say, compared to what he has. And these are all questions that so far we don't have any answers to. And like you say, the Jets defense, we know what that is. As bad as they were last season, we saw the Jets defense, and they are going to start this season on fire. I have no doubt at all about that. I just throw into the equation that they now have in their ranks Solomon Thomas and Javon Kinlaw as well, two people who know all about the 49ers. I think this is a fascinating matchup.
Do you
really
think there is a disconnect in the San Francisco 49ers, given the contract issues and Trent Williams, I'm with you. I cannot believe you've not got this sorted out. I hate to quote The Blind Side, but the guy who throws the ball has got the biggest contract. The guy that protects him should have the second biggest contract. And Trent Williams is as good as it gets. And look, he knows he's...
The last 4 years, he has been the best at his position.
Right. And if you are the best left tackle in the league, protecting your quarterback's blindside, who, let's remember, is still only 3 years into his NFL career. Now, granted, he has a wicked good supporting cast. Debo and Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings and Christian McCaffrey. Okay, that is, again, you are stacked full of talent. But if you can't keep the dude upright, or if he's feeling pressured and having to get rid of the ball early or whatever it may be, that is a concern against a defensive front. And Robert Saleh, I am sure he is slavering, he is salivating at the thought of having a fit Aaron Rodgers so his defense can actually perform the way it's sort of built to.
And there's one more name we haven't mentioned whilst we talk about this matchup, and I think he's going to be critical all year long to the New York Jets and the way they run their offense. It's running back Breece Hall. He is very, very good. He's a top 5 running back for me in the NFL going into this season. If he stays healthy, he runs as hard as anybody in the league. And if he's running well, it means Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to do it all himself. Well, you give me a more dangerous combination than in that.
And I just love the way that Rodgers reads defenses as well. I mean, I just love the...
We haven't mentioned Garrett Wilson,
wide receiver. Mike Williams, who's come over from the Chargers as well. Again, how much are you going to see of him on the field because he's relatively injury prone? But they're solid enough. They've got a solid enough receiving core with Garrett Wilson, the star.
Yeah.
A couple of pickups I like. Obviously, someone who you know very well, Tyron Smith.
Left tackle
on the offensive line, and Morgan Moses. I think that if you can keep Aaron Rodgers upright for another half a second, that's all he needs.
Absolutely.
That's all. I think it's a really intriguing matchup, and I may be going a different way than. Well, I'll see.
Okay, here we go then. The San Francisco 49ers, NFC champion San Francisco 49ers, round off week 1. At home, Monday Night Football, hosting their former defensive coordinator and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. They go into this game as 3.5-point favorites. I've picked first on the last 2. The floor is yours, Daggers.
And I am going with the New York Jets. I think they are ripe. I think they are fit to burst. I think they've been frustrated over the last season or so, and especially with the quarterback play that they've had, and from Zach Wilson in the first year and Zach Wilson in the second year, given the Rodgers injury, because so much was pinned on him. And I am going to go, Robert Saleh returning to San Francisco. I think they are ripe, the New York Jets. They want to show everybody who they are on Monday Night Football in San Francisco and say that they are for real. I go with the New York Jets.
Just to be clear, you're going with the New York Jets not only to win, but to cover at 3.5-point underdogs.
Yes.
Okay.
You see, this is what you want. This is what you want from me. You want that sort of outlandish kind of prediction, and I'm going to be bold. I am bold, Richard Graves.
Well, I've got news for you, Charles Dagnall. I'm as bold as you. I'm taking the New York Jets to cause the upset on Monday Night Football.
Yes.
I think 2010 is the last time the Jets made the postseason. Mark Sanchez was the quarterback of that team. I think the New York Jets make it to the postseason this time around, even in a division that has the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. I'm on board the Jet train. I'm with you. They will win and cover at 3.5-point underdogs. Okay, let's recap then for those who've lasted this long with us. You deserve some sort of an award. We won't give you the bonus picks from Thursday and Friday Night Football again, but we will remind you that we took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the Commanders and cover at 3.5-point favourites. We have a divergence of opinion for the Cowboys travelling to Cleveland to take on the Dog Pound and the Browns. The Browns are 2.5-point favourites. Charles Dagnall says, give me the Browns. I'm saying not so fast. The Cowboys might not win, but it's going to be a close one. Give me Dallas to cover at 2.5-point underdogs. And then we round out Monday Night Football, Jets at Niners, and we're both in agreement. This is the year of the Jets. The New York Jets go into San Francisco and they take down the 49ers, covering their tag at 3.5-point underdogs for the game. Quite frankly, Charles, I cannot wait for this. It's been a long time coming. Football is here again.
Football is back, and all of the storylines that we think about as fans, maybe in our heads, we talk to each other as friends. All of these things, no one knows. No one knows what's going on. And the anticipation, and it always delivers, Richard. So happy new season to you.
Likewise to you and your Baker Mayfield-led Bucks. The good news is, if you like hearing what Dagger's got to say, we're going to try and make this a monthly feature during the course of this season. We'll see how that goes, but certainly no better way, and no one I'd rather kick off the season with, even if I am blocked come Monday night from his phone, the new Charles Dagnall. Great to have you on the show.
And mate, it's always a pleasure, and if we can do it every month, that's great, and hopefully the listeners enjoy it. And to all of you who are listening and watching this on YouTube and stuff, have a great season. Hope your teams do well and you get as much out of it as we do.
Absolutely. And just to remind you as well, if you want to see, read, hear what we talked about on this season opening show on social media, I am on X at Richard Graves 1. Instagram is RDG Media UK. Equally, go to our website, www.rdgmedia.uk, or Facebook as well. We're on there, Graves on Gridiron on Facebook. I think that just about covers it all. And this week, you've got T20 Blast Cricket, haven't you, Daggers?
I have indeed. It's the quarterfinals. Bring it on. And looking forward to finals day in a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely. We look forward to hearing you on comms as well. Daggers, thanks very much. Say goodbye to the folks.
Goodbye, folks.
Cheers, Daggers. And remember, guys, it's all about fun. Football's back. The NFL is here once again. So long, everybody.
Subscribe to Graves on Gridiron wherever you listen to podcasts.
And keep up to date with the latest on Twitter. Search for Richard Graves 1.
That's Richard Graves, the number 1.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.